Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a great day and welcome to another test run video. Today, I'm going to be going over an update that I didn't really cover before because I don't know, there was so much content. But we're going to be talking about the health changes that happened across all the schools. So if you're unfamiliar with it, basically there were 3 big changes and 4 minor changes. The 4 minor ones I'm not really going to cover. Basically, I believe it was balance, ice, fire, and myth. They either gained or lost like, I don't know, 9 to like 20 HP. It's a very, very small amount, but there were huge changes in the hundreds of HP for life, storm, and Dayoft. So we're going to be going over the changes. We're going to be looking at how they might affect PvP, what they mean for the schools, and how they might have fallen short. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm actually going to start off with death because I think this was honestly the change in my opinion that made the most sense. I feel like the high health schools have always been balance, life, ice, and now death. And I think up to this point, it seemed like death was just getting a penalty on health for no real reason. And this is just a game of catch up that I think they deserve. So now what's really interesting, if you run a resist hat with the motorist robe and you also rock the Uber amulet, if you rock that stuff and have good heal jewels, you can actually get up to 10,000 health. For example, right, if I were to upgrade my Dragoon's Deadly Dagger and my Uber Sentimentalist Robe to 135 HP, if I ran the Resist Hat, Motorist, all that, I would still have 10,000 HP. And I think for death specifically, this is very important. This makes it so that you have extra health to work with when you're using your self-damage hits. So when we're talking about spells like Dark Pact, when we're talking about spells maybe even like Sacrifice, and most certainly when we're talking about spells like Scion, if you're going against a school, now instead of needing around 3,200 or 3,100 health to do Scion, now you're closing in on the 3,300 range. And I know that seems like it's not that crazy of a difference, but that threshold for death is extremely important. So the more HP that you can run with high resist, the better Scion of death becomes. I'm gonna be honest, I still think that because of the fact that death does so many self-damage hits and they do damage to themselves, I still think that they should have more HP than balance. In test run right now, balance's base HP is actually set slightly higher, which I kind of don't get because balance can heal more easily. It also has ready access to weaknesses. It has ready access to mana burn. So I feel like it would make more sense to me for death to have more than balance in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that it's even up there in the 10,000 health territory, that is really good. I think this change makes sense. If anything, they could do a little bit more. The next big change is life. Now, this is a huge one. Right now, if you go into test realm, you see life with 10,400 to 10,500 HP. You'll see ice wizards with closer to 10,900. However, what you might notice if you looked at the caramel gear, right? Like things like the Uber gear, things like the delightful, you know, Sweetsmith robe or the Uber Sweetsmith robe, all of that stuff. If you look at caramel gear, you'll start noticing that life actually has more HP on the gear. So this update basically gave life an extra 300 HP to work with. Now, for reference, right, death got a little less than 300, but life got a lot. Life got the biggest health increase out of all the schools. So I think this is a part of a larger thing that we're going to see where life genuinely does get very similar resist to ice, but less, but they make up for it in terms of HP. Now, if we're talking in a strictly PvP sense, I'm honestly not stoked about this because I honestly think that extra HP on a life only matters as much as if Diego works well. And what I mean by that is if you're in a 30-minute ranked match on a life and you do things that a life normally does, like you heal and stuff, very, very often, just 1 or 2 heals seems to put Diego super against you. And at the same time, you definitely do want a Diego that's sensitive to people that do nothing but heal spam the whole time and make your opponent's, you know, life a living nightmare. So this extra HP could be used for more wiggle room if you want to play offensive life. But really what this does, it helps you heal better and keep yourself closer to high HP at all times, right? That's what life is going to use health for. But the problem is in PvP, whenever you use anything to heal, Diego's going to be against you. I do not pity anybody who's working on Diego right now to fix whatever his calls are, because this is not an easy thing to fix. I genuinely think that there have been times where you can just wing spam and you literally always win timer because of how broken it used to be. And now it seems to be the opposite, where if you just regenerate once or twice and your opponent just mindlessly spams hits, they're gonna win. So this extra HP, yes, it's good if in the off chance that you tank by that much HP, or if you can heal, but it's only good against faster schools, meaning if it's ever a timer game, meaning if you're going to go against a death, if you're going against an ice, a balance, another life, any of those matchups, which is 4 out of 7, it's not going to help you. If anything, it increases the odds that you're going to lose to timer. Simply put, if you use a health to tank more, which you can do against faster schools so you can hit them before they kill you, then yes, it is going to help you. But the second you use this extra health to heal, you're going to lose to timer even more. And that's this really weird problem with life that I honestly don't think they can fix unless they really look into how Diego measures who's winning a match. Now let's talk about Storm, and that is really where, you know, the whole fall short thing that I talked about earlier in the video, this. So while Death got a 300 HP increase, Life got, I want to say 370, Storm only got 180 as a health increase. So what you see here is me running around 8,300 HP with actually pretty damn decent resist. So while this used to be closer to 8,100, now it's closer to 8,300, right? And I'm still running very good resist, 74 to ice, 74 to fire. I'm currently running a D-Lance Jewel on my pet, but I could also have Myth Ward if I really wanted. And you would see the stats, they're decent, you know, 123 damage, 74 resist to the good schools that against, you know, Storm, 33 Pierce, still decent pip chance. Now, I think what works about the death increase is that it's compared against some of the defensive schools, right? So that works, because now death is in the same realm as the other 3 defensive schools. But you would want Storm's health increase to make them as good in some ways as Myth and Fire, right? The offensive schools. That simply doesn't happen with this. To give you guys some context, the base health is still insanely different. So while Myth and Fire have close to 3,500 base HP right now, Storm has 2,850. Simply put, it's a 600 health difference just on their base HP. Even after this health update, still 600 health puts you between a Storm and a Myth. And that's before you count in all the gear, right? Obviously, there's pieces of gear that everyone might rock, like Motorist Overcoat, that does bridge the divide a little bit. But when we're looking at things like the Mouster hat, when we're looking at Dragoon, when we're looking at any gear in general that's Storm School only, there's even more health differences, right? So it's not just 600 health. That's where you start getting the 1,000 health difference that you see between Storm and Fire. The 1,100 health difference you might see between Storm and Myth. These things might seem slight, but when you look at the offensive capabilities of Myth and Fire with their hitting buffs in the case of Fire, when you look at the fact that literally they can hit in weakness, Myth can literally render your shields useless. When you look at all of those things and you look at the offensive tools that Storm has, the health is still way too different. The best offensive tools that Storm has right now are Thunderbird, which you need 2 cards to use, and Storm Beetle, which either you have to have the TCs or you have to make the pet and give up damage as a result of that from your gear set bonus. So while you actually have to sacrifice quite a bit for your actual utility spells, Myth and Fire don't have to do that. Now, I will say that in Test Realm, it's really nice that we do have a hidden bubble as Storm Wizards. This does offer a good bit of change. It's a good volcanic shield breaker, but the truth doesn't change, right? I mean, Storm is still unable to compete with Fire and Myth because of the fact that they just have more HP and better utility offense. Now, there's only 2 solutions to this. One, make their base HPs not 600 health apart. So if there are health differences, it's because of gear, not just your school. That's one way. Or we need offensive abilities that put Storm apart from Fire and Myth. Not a hidden bubble like Fire and Myth already have. Not blade removal like Myth and Fire already have with Earthquake, Nautilus, Steel Charm, all of that. And most certainly not with RNG spells, because I mean, I'm very grateful they removed the weakness, but still, this doesn't compare to the utility of Yaga or S'mores, just off of the fact that you don't always get the blade. So yeah, I think the health does make a difference. Obviously, I think we should interpret this as the beginning of something, not the end. But I do think that they need to really consider making health even closer when it comes to Fire, Storm, and Myth specifically, and make them play different. or they just gotta give Storm better spells compared to Fire and Myth when it comes to just doing damage and having offensive tempo. So yeah, I think the death change makes a lot of sense. I think it's actually a very good change. I think the life change does make sense, but Diego might offer some problems there. And I think the Storm change is extremely underwhelming. I get it. It's the beginning. Maybe they'll do other things to make Storm better, but I still think health should be focused on. I still think it should be higher. I don't know. Those are just my 2 cents. I'm just so tired of going against offensive schools that are just better than Storm, and they have more HP as well. But let me know what you guys think. Would you guys agree with me? Do you guys think these changes are good? Did you guys even feel them if you did test run PvP? As always, drop a like if you enjoyed. Leave a sub if you're new. There's tons of links in the description, including my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, my Instagram, and of course, my Patreon. Y'all turn on notifications. I'm going to be putting out tons of test run content this week as well. As always, stay awesome. And yeah, y'all.